Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode with Bost and me, Steve Costello. So, we've been talking about issues relating to leadership, taking a break at work, and all kinds of things over the last few weeks. And what we're heading towards in about 2 weeks from today, or was it yesterday? It might even be tomorrow, I can't remember. What we're heading toward is a workshop for leaders. You will be seeing some publicity about that very, very soon. So keep your eyes open. If you've got any questions, ask questions. It will be brilliant to see everybody there. But more detail on that later. That's not why we're here today. The reason why we're here today is to talk about authenticity, particularly authenticity in leadership. What does it mean? What are the elements of authenticity? What are the benefits of authentic leadership? Because there's got to be some benefits, right? So let's just rewind a little bit, and I'm going to ask Anne the question: what is a reasonable definition of authentic leadership, Anne? What do you think?
Hello, Steve. Nice to be here with you with this discussion. First of all, authenticity for me is about being true to oneself, embracing your genuine thoughts, emotions, and values, and reflecting them in your actions. It's a congruence between your inner self and how you present yourself to the world. So in my experience with my miracle, breath mastery, and consulting on mindset shifts, authenticity plays a pivotal role. For me, it's the foundation for living a balanced and fulfilling life. And when we align with our true selves, we experience harmony and personal satisfactions because our actions resonate with our deepest value. But authenticity in a business context is incredibly powerful. For company, being authentic means operating with transparency and aligning practices with core values and maintaining consistency in communication. And this builds, for me, trust with customers and partners, fostering deeper brand loyalty. Consider a business that clearly communicates its values and practices openly. This transparency creates a strong, authentic connection with its audience. That's what we share today and for all discussion with Steve. And today's customers are increasingly looking for brands that resonate with their personal values. Authenticity helps businesses attract and retain customers who appreciate this alignment. So, Steve, can you share with us an example of company that you believe embodies authenticity? Do you have an example? And how does this impact their relationships with customers, for example?
Yes, I can share an example. I'm not going to name this company. It's quite a small company and it works in the well-being industry. It's not my company. And this particular company employs a number of coaches, social media experts, technicians. They have some machinery that they use in various health centres around the UK. So they have a kind of broad skill base of employees. The managers need to be able to look after all of those different people because it's not a huge company. So they can't have a manager who just looks after coaches and another who just looks after social media and another who looks after technicians. It's not big enough to do all of that. So the leadership needs to be in tune with the people who work there. The people who work there have different goals, different aims, and so on and so forth. So they need to be aware of what people understand and what people need to be able to do their jobs well. They need to be leaders who can be approached and they are leaders who can be approached. They need to be approached, and they need to be able to, the teams need to be able to know that they're listened to, that they're heard.
Mm.
Because if they are listened to, they are heard, they're more likely to perform at a higher level. And it's not a sneaky thing, it's a very open thing. We want to know how you feel. We want to hear what you think. We want you to share your expertise. I'm going to share my expertise with you too. So we develop this sharing community, this sharing culture, which makes many of the things that they do very, very positive. If the leadership is authentic, which I believe in this company it is, there is a level of trust between the managers and the employees, and vice versa. It's got to work in two directions. So that we need to have this trust, and we need to have credibility. It's down to the leadership to build that trust and to build that credibility and to enable people to understand that it does work both ways. So there's quite a lot of responsibility in authenticity. It's not one of those phrases where we say, okay, you need to be an authentic leader, get on with it. It takes a lot of building. It's a lot of work. People who relate well to authentic leaders will be happy to follow them because they feel comfortable, because they understand where the leader is coming from. There's no dark corners. There's no secret. Everything is open. Okay, the employees may not be involved in certain decisions because it's not their job, but still the authentic leader will share the decisions and why they're making them, because that helps as well. So with authentic leaders in this organization are forming this kind of positive organizational culture that people want to be a part of, which I think is very, very powerful. Because if people want to be a part of your culture, your organization, then you're always going to have great employees, people who want to be there. Here's a simple question. Think about it. How would you feel if you had two members of staff? One of them loved your company and wanted to be at work every day, the hours they're supposed to be there, and the other one didn't like your company. Which one do you choose? It's not a difficult question. The one I choose is the one who understands the leadership, who wants to follow the leadership and be part of what's going on in that company, be part of the company culture. And that's what we have in this company that I'm talking about. I don't think it's fair to name them because that kind of sets them apart from the similar companies that I'm aware of. So that's why I didn't want to do that. But what a question that's coming up for me now as I talk through this stuff about this particular business is, what are the key elements of authentic leadership? So what do you think, Anne?
I think that about key, despite its significance, embracing authenticity can be challenging, for sure. And many people fear judgment or rejection. And when they reveal their true selves, societal norms and expectations can make it difficult to stay true to oneself. So, to overcome these challenges, regular self-reflections is crucial, because when you reflect on yourself and you start to think before acting, and I think that it's very important before acting to think about the fact, about the communication that you have, and you take a distance. Understanding your core values and reaffirming them can help you stay true to yourself also. And it takes courage to express and act according to your true self. practical strategies like mindful, conscious breathing, because it's my work and I know that it works. But journaling also, it's a technique that you can use, and setting clear boundaries can be effective in nurturing your authenticity. It's not easy to be authentic in life because you are the societal norms, you have the judgment of the others. But the most important is to be in balance with yourself. When you respect yourself and you are your true self, you listen to your true self, you make the great choice for the others, and people around you feel your authenticity, feel that you are true, and they trust you for sure. For me, it's like a transparency that you share with the world and with the business leaders around you. So I think that there are some qualities very specific to define an authentic leader. So for you, Steve, what do you believe these qualities are essential for effective leadership? What qualities do you think define an authentic leader?
I think there are quite a few. Just before, and I will answer that question, Anne, in a moment, but I need to respond to something you said. So we're talking about leadership respond or reacting to things that are happening in the workplace, for example. Think about that word reacting just for a minute. When we react, we're very often very quick. Something happens, we react. And sometimes we react before we've considered everything that's involved in whatever it happens to be. So here's the trick. Anne mentioned breathing. So listen to Anne when she talks about breathing. Pause, breathe, focus on your breathing just for a few seconds. Just focus. And then when you're done, respond to whatever it was that was thrown your way. It could have been a question. It could have been a reaction. It could have been a million things. So pause and respond rather than pause and react. And guess what? If you analyze every time you react and how your body feels when you react, you'll probably say things like, oh, it makes me tired. If I keep reacting to stuff like this, I'm going to get so tired, it's giving me a headache. But if you pause, breathe, and respond, that starts a different sequence of events within your body. And it's much more positive. So pause and respond, not pause and react. That's a good mindfulness intervention. So some elements of authentic leadership, and mention these. So what I'm probably going to do is give slightly different words, so different phrases. Self-awareness. An authentic leader needs to understand their strengths, understand what challenges them, what they find difficult, and what can we do about what they find difficult. They need to understand those things. They need to understand their values and their emotions. Think about emotions for a minute. Many of us experience emotions throughout our day, and quite often we don't stop to recognize them. They just are what they are, and they go pop. We have a little emotional whatever, and then we move on to the next thing. We don't take the time to understand our emotions. An authentic leader understands their emotion, understands what winds them up, what makes them angry, and what they can do about it. An authentic leader is really great at sharing information openly. You know, we don't have a piece of paper on the desk that we have secret notes written upon. I used to have a manager who did that. And one day I said, what are you writing about? He used to hide the notes with a piece of paper. And he wasn't able to tell me what he was hiding either. He made excuses. Interesting. Imagine how I felt about that. I didn't feel very positive at all. That was not transparent leadership. He could have been writing a shopping list for all I knew, but he didn't want to share what he was doing. Can you objectively analyze the things that are going on in your work? Or do you find that you've got to sit on one side of the fence or another? Can you analyze without judging everything that comes your way? Can you analyze with curiosity and openness? Those are really important elements of authentic leadership. And another one to think about, what is your moral perspective like? What are your standards and your values? Now, one of the challenges, especially within bigger companies, is that sometimes our moral standards and values are challenged by the company culture. How do we feel about that? How can we work that one through? That is a huge question that I don't think we're going to answer properly in this discussion today, but it's certainly a question that needs to be thought about. And if we have those elements and others, I've not mentioned all the elements that I noted yesterday. So we have self-awareness, transparency, processing things in a balanced manner rather than jumping one way or another. And then this thing about moral perspective. If we have at least those things, we have some of the really important elements of authentic leadership. So we can then start to look at, to expand on this a little bit, what factors help us to be good, authentic leaders? Or what things can we do? What can we work on? What do we need to work on? Is the question. Do we all need to work on it? Even though we think we're amazing, authentic leaders, is it something we need to keep working at? Or do we get to a point where we say, I'm good at this now, I'll just carry on? What do you think?
I think a lot about authenticity, but authentic leaders, for me, create positive work environments by being consistent, acknowledging their mistakes, and valuing diverse perspectives. And to emphasize the importance of authentic leadership, this approach not only strengthens leadership, but also cultivate a culture of authenticity within the organization. Because I know and I meet some clients who refuse their authenticity because they think that they lose their strength, they lose their power of manager. And when we just have a look at the beautiful, wonderful company who has success right now in the world, it's all about authentic leaders. All leaders are very, very authentic, and they know themselves, and they act with people around us, with their teams, with authentic behavior, and it works. Just have a look at the beautiful, amazing company who have success right now. It's all of that. So for me, it's just about awareness and see what's happening in the world, what's happening with successful companies, and who is the manager, who is the boss of the company. You see the authenticity in there.
Yeah, I think there's a great example. Some years ago, there was a photograph circulating on social media that was made to circulate by the Virgin Group, Richard Branson, and so on. And the picture was a house it was clearly a house in the UK by the style of it, and it had quite a lot of windows. I don't remember how many. And in each window was a member of the team. And they were looking out the window and they were smiling and waving. And it was a really happy look at this cool picture. It was great. And it made you feel things like family. That's a nice place. I wouldn't mind being part of that. It kind of generated all these positive attitudes toward this very simple picture. And that for me was transparency in action. And okay, Richard Branson was in one of the windows.
It's a good example. It's a good example. You take the best. For me, it's a good example of Richard Branson. Yeah, because I met him. It reflects a short story that I can bring here. I was an hostess in my past life, and I had the pleasure to meet him when he launched the Virgin Company airline. And when he launched that company, he brings all the team, all the air hostess, all the air stewardess in the plane, and they make a fest and they drink a little coffee, a little orange juice, and they celebrate the first flight for this company. And it's the first time that I saw such event in the airline, because there are a lot of clients, passengers waiting for the flight. And during this time, they celebrate in the plane the moment for the first flight. So and authenticity was very present at this time. So it shows us that authenticity in a leader brings your sources. When you see Richard Branson, it's a good example that you have around us.
Yeah, brilliant. He's one of my heroes as well. Interesting. So let's think. So we've talked about some of the things that help authentic leadership. But on the counter to that, there are some things that can hinder authentic leadership. And we need to be aware of those things because we don't want to fall down those holes. If holes is a good way to describe them. If we lack self-awareness, we don't understand our strengths. We don't understand what challenges us. We're not aware of our values. Would you believe that I frequently meet clients when you ask them what their values are, that they can only give you a couple, and they're really not aware of what their other values are until somebody like me in a coaching role asks questions that pull them out. So authentic leaders need to be aware of those values. They matter in a big way, and they make a difference. If we ignore feedback and we don't engage in self-reflection, that's not going to help our authenticity. We can't ignore feedback. Indeed, we need to ask for feedback. Can you imagine, you go to your team and you say, guys, how are things going? How do you feel? How do you feel in relation to the way I'm leading this team? How does that make them feel? It makes them feel valued. It makes them feel important. And a whole load of other positive things. What about, this is something I remember from my days when I worked at British Aerospace rather a long time ago, inconsistent behavior. My manager was really moody. And as a result of that moodiness, the behavior of that person was very inconsistent. You didn't know whether it was going to be a good day or not a good day. And you didn't really know where to stand, as an English phrase, stepping on eggshells. You often felt like you had to step on eggshells and not be heard. It was quite difficult, and that was not transparent leadership. That was very closed leadership. And then there are all kinds of external pressures that can hinder authentic leadership. External pressures at home. We're human beings. We have stuff going on in our lives, and that's okay. But sometimes people need a mentor or a coach or even a therapist to help them work out what these external pressures are and how to manage them. It doesn't all have to be done on our own. One of the big ones that I come across in my work is poor communication. If managers are not communicating with their teams effectively, something's going to break or not work. So communication is really important. Great example of that were a client who owned a business said to me that she thought she was a poor communicator. But to cut a very long story short, she didn't think to say to her team, is my communication okay or not okay? She didn't ask the question. She assumed that she was a poor communicator. The truth was, when we got to it, was that actually her communication was brilliant and her staff thought so too. But she didn't ask the question, which is kind of it sounds a little bit funny, but that's the way it was. What about empathy? We talk about empathy a lot, especially in therapy and coaching. Empathy is a big topic. If as a manager, I can't understand or relate to my teams, and I can't relate to their perspective or their needs, what does that do? It creates a kind of disconnect, so
Yeah.
the two of us are kind of floating in opposing places. We're not together as we need to be. And I'm going to talk too much. I know you know an awful lot about this subject.
No, that's fine. That's the reason why we launch a workshop for that, because we have a lot to share and to discuss about that. Maybe for me, in conclusion, I want to tell that authenticity is not just a concept, but a way of living that enriches our personal lives and professional endeavors. And it enhances fulfillment, fosters trust, and builds integrity. And by committing to being authentic, we align our actions with our values, that would say, leading to a more balanced and meaningful life. And I want to tell everyone who listen to us, who really listen to the recording, that we all have a coach or a mentor in our life. And all leaders who have success right now had a coach or mentor around there. Because we need to be supported, we need to be encouraged, we need all of that. Because it's not a common idea to educate yourself and to learn with a book. We need to be guided. You need someone who asks you the right question, because it's all about the powerful question that we can ask, that you reflect on yourself. So that's all about leading to a more balanced and meaningful life. So thank you again, Steve, for joining this discussion about authenticity. And I hope that all this insight that inspire to embrace your true self in every aspect of your life. And don't forget to comment and subscribe, and for more living authentically and achieving personal growth. And let's continue this journey together. I'm looking forward for our next conversation, Steve. And I want to say to everyone, stay authentic and stay connected.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anne. As usual, it's a pleasure to have been here today. Absolutely wonderful. And to everybody else out there, watch out for the publicity about the workshop. It's a free workshop. It's a very positive workshop. It will talk about authenticity, but we're not just going to have a conversation as we have today. We will offer you some tools, some tips, some practical things that you can take away and put into action, because action changes things. So watch out for the publicity. It will have a blue background. That's all you need to know for now. It will be on all the usual platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and anywhere else I can think of. So watch out for that publicity and do respond. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have thoughts and comments, leave them in the comments to this video, or send us a direct message if you would rather keep your comments private, and they will stay private. Have a brilliant day. Take care. We'll see you again really soon.